We build a raised floor for our kitchen, lay down some gas pipes, and build our wet room walls before installing the shower, painting the walls, and laying tiles to create a beautiful, one-of-a-kind camper van wet room.
Welcome back. Sorry we've been on a little hiatus, but we're back now, and as you can see I am standing in the brand new wet room in the Bedford. We spent the past few weeks building this and we cannot wait to show you how we did it. Got some beautiful features in here, from our black lime wash walls to our beautiful green marble tiles, and of course these gorgeous vintage brass shower fittings. But we're going to rewind it a little bit. I'm going to start with how exactly we built the shower box, walk you through that, and then we'll get on to the fun bits. Let's go.
But before we tackle the shower, we had to build the false kitchen floor.
So as you can see around me, Ben's already made a start at cutting down the pieces of wood that we're going to be using for the false floor. These are 10-inch wide scaffolding boards which will be fitted like this on their sides with some angled brackets to create a nice frame underneath. The purpose of this false floor is because we wanted to have the kitchen on a different level to the rest of the living area, to kind of break it up a bit, use some of this enormous height we've got in this van. It's going to double as some storage. You can put a little storage drawer just down here. You never have enough storage in a van. And it also means that the kitchen cabinets we're going to be building on this side are going to be deeper because they will open up and then will go underneath the false floor. This will give us more space to store things like gas bottles, the boiler, pots and pans, everything really. And then the oven and hob we're going to be going on this side as well, but that will just sit on top of the false floor. And then finally, this little section here is where the wood burner is going to be going. So we decided to build an extra little bit of log storage just underneath that, all built into this amazing false floor. So when we finish cutting down the wood, we'll just need to pop some plywood on top of that before we can start building on top of it, and then some flooring on top of that. But we do have a little snag first of all, is that we've got these rear lights here, and we're going to need to wire them in before we put the flooring down, because it'll be our only chance. The flooring is going to be hiding the wiring, and it's going to be hiding the gas pipes that run around here to the oven as well. So with that in mind, I think we'll get started and walk you through it. So with my lovely little assistant here, I'm just doing a bit of 12-volt wiring, my favourite, which you'll probably remember from the last video. Not gonna lie, just had my dad here for the last 3 hours explaining how to do this, but we basically just need to connect the rear lights, obviously they're on both sides of the van, connect them together and then drop some wire down through the floor to the van's original wiring harness, which just runs from the front to the back here, and then I'm going to just have to use a drill bit to cut out some small channels underneath the scaffolding boards so that the wires will run nice and neatly and stay tucked out of the way. Nearly done.
All the boards for the false floor are now cut out and put into place. Lucy's just going around double checking, triple checking that they're all right angles, all 90 degrees. Some of them aren't because they've moved around a little bit. And then after that, we're going to screw them all into place using angle brackets, and then we'll be making the holes for the gas fittings. The gas fittings are going to start over here and work their way over to the left here where Lucy is. That's where the oven and the hob's going to be. After that, we'll then be putting in the actual floor.
Alright, now it's time to fit the plywood flooring.
floor is in, Lucy's done a really good job of feeding the gas pipes all the way through the boards and then up through this final flooring here. There's going to be a little bit more floor that I've just got to cut out to go here, and this is where eventually the wood burner is going to go. But I'm going to leave that for now, so you can see our little underfloor drawer is going to fit here nicely as well. So while Lucy's been doing that, I've just been cutting down the batten for the shower room. I think most of it's cut down now, so let's not waste any more time. Let's get to it and build a frame for the shower room, shall we? So the first part of the shower frame is in, it's installed. It's really solid. Lucy was actually doing some pull-ups on it. It's that strong. So I think this is a good base to start. But we've just noticed a really stupid mistake. We were so excited to get these 12-volt spotlights in the roof, in the ceiling, that we forgot to cut out a hole for the mushroom vent, which is somewhere around here, I think, actually. So yeah, we've gone and covered that up. And obviously this ain't coming back down now, so the only way to get that back into view is to go up on the roof, cut all the Seeger flex off of it, take the mushroom vent out, and then cut the hole through the plywood on top of the roof, if that makes any sense.
Okay, so Ben's just been up on the roof. He's managed to uncover the mushroom vent by taking it out and refitting it, which is great. We've got the frame all built for the shower room, and now all that's left is to apply the plywood walls to them and screw them on. We're also going to be filling the cavities in between with 25mm insulation. There's no particular reason for this, we've just got loads of it left over from the project, and seeing as the mushroom vent net's in a little bit of cold and there's a bit of damp in here, we thought it might help to sort of protect it from the rest of the van. There goes the cat.
With the cat safely out of harm's way, we finished building the shower room walls.
So with the main walls built for the shower room, the next job is going to be building the small wall that's going to house the pipes and attach the shower mixer to. So it's going to come out to about here, 8 centimetres out, and that's going to hide all the pipes from the shower that are then going to go through this wall and attach to the boiler on the other side. So let's not hang around, let's get started.
So I've just been working out how to fit our shower mixer. Ben has been working on this stud wall. He's built the timber frame for it now using some angle brackets and some screws. And then we just need to drill a couple of holes in the wood up here in order to fit these pipes through. And then after the pipes it goes down to a flexi hose. This converts it from the 1/2-inch brass fitting to our speed fit pipe. We like speed fit because it's easy to use and it's lightweight, which makes it brilliant for vans. So all we need to do is fit this in. We fit the pipes in, take the mixer off, fit the rest of the speed fit pipes so they go through the wall. Then we can finish building the stud wall, and then once we've tanked the whole thing, we'll then put the mixer on and the rest of the shower. So speed fit's super easy to use because you just have your plastic pipe. It's got a little collar, push it in there, and then you just pull the collar back. And that's it, it just stays in there and creates a watertight seal. So easy to use, no tools required. Okay, so now that the shower mixer is in and this wall is looking nice and solid, our next task is to start working on the floor. Rather than go for like a conventional shower tray, we've decided to build our own floor to create more of a kind of wet room feel, give it more of like a cohesive look. So we're going to be building this floor out of buffalo boards, and we've also got to work out how we can fit the drain we bought into the floor and not have any leaks. So that's the next stage.
So you are joining me at the shower base. This is the base of the shower. I've had to make it, 10 to 12 centimetres deep because Lucy bought a very, very weird fitting off of Amazon, a drain basically, which doesn't use a normal fitting. So we've had to use a compression fitting underneath that, which is about 8 centimetres deep, I think. So that needs to be sitting on the floor underneath the shower. Next up, I'm going to be drilling the hole for the waste pipe that's going to go straight down underneath the van, and eventually we'll have a grey water tank under there. So that's my next job. I'm going to drill the hole out from the base of the shower all the way through the van. So I've cut the hole out for the waste pipe, and I've cut the hole out for the drain to sit into like this. Now you might be wondering why we're using buffalo board instead of a conventional shower tray. That is because we like to make things very difficult for ourselves at any possible moment we can. And also we've got an absolute load of buffalo board left over. So this is going to be the back piece here. It's going to have this sit through, hopefully just through, like that. And then the other pieces that I'm going to put in are going to be slightly angled up. I'm only talking about probably 2 or 3 mil, very, very small angle on it. And that's just going to help all the water drain down the hole. So my next step is to make these tiny little inclines and then put the buffalo boards in place. And then we should have a nice draining shower floor.
Alright, as you can see behind me, the shower is now in. This process ended up taking about 2 or 3 days because we really are plumbing novices and we've got the added difficulty of trying to install plumbing in a van. So a few days on, I could finally get on with waterproofing the wet room. The first stage of this is going to be to silicone in every little gap and corner, any possible area that the water might be able to get in, just fill that with silicone, and then I'm going to be tanking it. The process is pretty much the same as building a wet room in a house as it is in the van, apart from the differences we're using plywood walls instead of plaster walls, but essentially the process is the same because you don't want any water getting in behind your tanking solution or your tiles, or in our case, paint, which we'll be sharing with you a little bit later on in the video. So for now, I'm going to start filling these in and then we'll get on with some tanking. As you can see, I have applied liberal amounts of silicone all over the shower area. I've covered up the shower mixer with masking tape. Ideally we wouldn't have put this in until the end of the process, but because of the way we've built this we had to put it in now, so I'm just protecting it from any kind of silicone or tanking solution. So fast forward about 2 or 3 hours and the silicone behind me is finally dry, which means I can start applying the tanking. I've got this stuff here. Rustic damp proofer and waterproofer. It's a bitumen based membrane. You just paint it on, it's super thick, sticky and black, and will completely waterproof the surface, ready for whatever you want to apply on top of it. We're going to be trying a little bit of an experiment with some paint, which we're quite excited to share with you once this is on. So now it's time to get dirty. This is a bit of a messy job. I would definitely recommend to use an old or disposable brush because this stuff does not clean off of anything. Definitely also recommend wearing gloves and some old clothing. The stuff isn't actually as thick and sticky as I remember it being. It's quite thin, which means if you overload the brush it does tend to go everywhere. I've even got a little bit on my face as you can see. So yeah, that's a good tip, and also keep your brush strokes going in the same direction if you're applying this stuff, because it helps whatever surface you're going to put over it adhere to it later on, and you will want to do 2 coats of this stuff. If it seems like it's not drying, that is because it's supposed to stay tacky when it's finished, which will bring me nicely on to the next stage of decorating our wet room. Right, so you're joining me now for a very exciting part of building the wet room. Today I'm going to be decorating the walls with lime wash. Lime wash is going to be a bit of an experiment. It's not something I've seen done in a camper van before, but the reasons for using it are twofold. Number one is lime wash is a much more sustainable alternative to normal paint. It's a mineral-based paint, contains no harmful petrochemicals, and it's been used on traditional old buildings for centuries. The second reason is if you've ever seen lime wash, it's quite often used in like old Italian buildings, but also on kind of thatched roof buildings in England. It creates this lovely sort of brushed texture, I guess. It looks a little bit like watercolour. You can see behind me I've been busy tanking. This is to waterproof the wet room, filling in all of the corners with black silicone. I've also sanded down the tanking with an orbital sander just to kind of remove some of the harsher brush strokes because I don't want them to interfere with the brush strokes of the lime wash. Oh, I'd like to add as well, the other reason for using lime wash, I've been talking to the guys who create this, is that it is a natural breathable paint. So it is suitable to be used in shower rooms because it absorbs the moisture and then it exhales it again. The only reason I'm probably going to be adding a clear coat afterwards is because of the pigment. I don't want the pigment to come out of the lime wash, but otherwise it should be absolutely fine. And I think this could be a good thing for camper vans because we all know they get quite damp. So to have a paint that can breathe the moisture and not just absorb it, I think could be a good thing. But let's find out how it goes. Behind me, the first coat of the lime wash is now dry. It dries significantly lighter, about 10 shades lighter than it goes on, which has meant applying black on black has been a little bit tricky to actually get the brush strokes right. But the first coat is always going to look a little bit rough with lime wash, or so I'm told from the many guides I've been watching online. And with the time I've added the second coat, hopefully we'll be getting a little bit more texture and a little bit less randomness. It's also, I don't know if it's ever been done, painting lime wash onto tanking, like waterproof bitumen basically. It's a little bit different, but I was told that because lime wash needs to adhere to something, it doesn't actually sit on the surface like normal paints, it actually sinks into brick or mortar or plaster, which is why I couldn't use it on bare plywood, but apparently it should work because the tanking is quite tacky and it does seem to be drying and sticking pretty well. So let's see how it goes after the second coat and hopefully we'll be getting somewhere near the effect that I'm looking for. So the next stage of building the wet room is that we're going to be adding in the flooring. We've bought these gorgeous slate effect ceramic tiles to go on the floor and we're going to be sticking them down with flexible tile adhesive. Usually if you're planning to tile like a shower room or wet room in a van, you should try and use the smaller tiles as possible because with the movement and the vibrations, the larger tiles are just going to create more weight basically. But as this van is going to be primarily stationary, we've gone for some larger tiles for the floor. I've done a bit of tiling before, I don't really enjoy it, but all we've got to do is cut these tiles down to size, stick them on with some adhesive, grout them, and it should be a pretty simple task. Let's crack on with it. The next stage in our camper van wet room is to stick down the flooring. Ben's cut down all our lovely ceramic slate effect floor tiles to size. Now all I've got to do is mix some tile adhesive and get them stuck down. This isn't a usual approach in a van. We have gone for a flexible tile adhesive, but I really don't know how flexible it's still going to be. If you're in a van that's going to be moving a lot, it's probably going to crack in the end, so you might want to look into something different. But as the Bedford's going to primarily be stationary, I think we're pretty safe to stick these tiles down with normal tile adhesive.
With the floor tiles firmly in place, it was time to see how the drying lime paint was coming along.
As you can see behind me, the lime paint on the shower walls is now dry. I'll tell you this, lime paint is not for people that are scared of experiments. It's very unpredictable the results you're going to get. Plus, normally you'd be applying like a darker lime paint onto a white wall. I was doing the opposite, and when I'm painting this stuff on, it's completely black. It's black on black. So the result was very unpredictable, but I think I'm really happy with it. It's really all in the technique. I'd recommend watching some tutorials on YouTube if you do decide to go this route. But yeah, it gives this really lovely sort of brushstroke texture here. It's all very kind of velvety and random and just quite artistic really, like you've done a sort of watercolour on the wall. So after a few days of trial and error and having to scrub one of the walls clean and reapply it, I finally managed to get the effect that we were looking for, and I'm super happy with it. Stage of building our wet room is that we're going to be creating a tiled backsplash underneath the shower mixer. We've got these beautiful green marble effect tiles, and we're just going to be sticking them on, spacing them out with some tile spacers, and then I'm going to grout the whole thing, and then we'll just about be done with the shower room. Green marble tiles all stuck onto the wall. Only took a few hours in the end, and the final stage is just to grout them to fill in the gaps. We're using ivory grout for no reason other than that's all they had at the local builder's yard, but it actually looks quite nice. And again, just like tile adhesive, grout isn't something I would usually recommend to use in a moving camper van because it probably would be prone to cracking. Although this is a flexible grout, I don't think it was still designed for camper vans.
So there we have it, our shower room, wet room is complete, and we could not be happier with the overall outcome of it. It's gorgeous. And look at all this space, I could do a little twirl in here if I wanted to, there's so much room. More room than a house shower, I reckon.
We cannot wait to show you guys though what's coming up in the next video. As you might be able to see behind me, I've started doing something very special to the walls. That's all I'm going to tell you for now. But and we're also going to be building the kitchen. Probably the most exciting bit in the van. We're going to be building the kitchen units, we're going to be putting in the sink, the oven, the hob. Just wait until you see the sink and wait until you see our worktops. They are incredible.
We are so happy with them. It's going to look beautiful. It's really coming along in here now, and it will not be long until we can actually like maybe stay in here for the night to trial it out.
Wouldn't that be nice?
But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've still got a lot of work to do, so I hope you've enjoyed it. And we will see you on the next video.
And if you're really itching to see what we've been up to in advance, you can always join us on Patreon, where we've already started uploading the progress on the kitchen and the walls. See you next time.
Cheers.